Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me for some palaver here on Hail to Stephen King, my favorite author that you see all of the books beside me. And yes, bienvenidos and welcome to the horror show. This is a show that I do twice a week, and this is the second entry in a new kind of like sub-series of sorts that I've been doing. So you guys may have seen the little sequel film series I've been doing called Films That Failed to Remember the Face of Their Father, or Films That Forgot the Face of Their Father, I should say. It's not quite as complex as that. And then also this is a new one that I'm trying to do as we anxiously await Elevation, yes that's right, which is coming here in just a few months in October. Just got done reading The Outsider, which was awesome, and yet very excited to do this second installment of something that I'm calling Stephen King Uncollected. Now, most of Stephen King's short stories have indeed been tossed in everything from Night Shift to Skeleton Crew to Just After Sunset, which is one of my personal favorites. Most recently, see it right over there, The Bizarre Bad Dreams. But, so there are the few stray stories that they appeared in magazines and then they have been only re-released in like these special edition collections like you see Shivers from Sematary Dance and, you know, other places doing things like that. So, I am very excited to talk about this story because it was really like nothing else King that I have read before, especially subject matter-wise. It was like totally different. It was originally published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction in 1978, and later that year in the year's best horror stories series 7, this little paperback that I have to give a big shout out to Mr. Brian Gatto of Horror Show Entertainment, who sent this in like kind of a care package to us. This was collected and released in 1979, a year after the story actually originally came out. So this is technically the 40-year anniversary of this short story, which is called The Night of the Tiger. Never collected in any of King's stuff, and so I just got done reading it, and it's fascinatingly different than pretty much anything King-wise that I've talked about before or that I've read before. So you got Sock City and this kid who basically joins the circus and observes a very strange dynamic between the main lion tamer and this guy who just kind of pops up and apparently has been for the last 20 years anytime they get to this like Midwest regional area where they're going through like Indiana and Oklahoma and places like that. So there's a rivalry between these two, and this like follower of the circus and this lion tamer, and it's all observed by this kid who is, you kind of presume he's just right out of high school, so he's super young, 18, 19 years old, whatever. And he's helping set up the tents and, you know, clean the cat cages and stuff like that. And but he sees this odd rivalry going down and gives a play-by-play of it kind of boiling to a head, I guess, is the best way you can describe it. And so there is one cat in particular who was named Green Terror, if I'm not mistaken. I just gotta jump and double check. But, yes, Green Terror. And so, Green Terror is the only tiger that is in this troop of cats. So you've got some lions, you've got a Black Panther, shout out Black Panther, Wakanda forever. But, yeah, this green tiger apparently, this Green Terror tiger has these green eyes, and he's very feisty and temperamental. And so, an interesting thing that this story really does is it hints at a lot of things without really just giving you the full bulk of what's transpiring, and that's a good thing that King does with his short stories, you know, is it's very much Twilight Zone-y, you know, or Tales from the Crypt, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, as far as just, I love anthology short storytelling because it often hinges upon the coolness of the twist, how much the twist works, and the twist is very dope in this, I have to say. It took a just, I guess, moderately mediocre story and really upped it into an interesting area. And so, yeah, this is a tough story where I can't really divulge too much beyond the fact that this weird rivalry between the trainer and this person who comes well dressed. And at first I thought it was like, you know, the main guy behind the circus or whatever, you know, one of them, like ringmaster or whatever, but no, that's apparently not the case. He's just somebody that when they were in these particular regions would come out and had this propensity to constantly antagonize, you know, the main trainer and stuff. And so beyond everything that we already see, you know, between these two butting heads at every single stop, it's in the middle of the summer, it's super hot, they're entering tornado season, and they're like going through Oklahoma, and you know, they're entering tornado season. That is like frightening, if anything, to me. One of the few things here in Phoenix that I am very happy, the only natural disaster we have to contend with, aside from maybe getting Arizona Bay, like in the Tool song at some particular point, is the heat. Because we don't have hurricanes or earthquakes or tornadoes or any of these crazy natural disasters to contend with. But you know, this is another shorter one. You know, it's only 12 pages, but I'm really curious as to why it's never been collected. I don't know if it's been seen reprinted anywhere besides here, as I mentioned, just to get one more quick little cool look of it without too much glare on it. But yeah, the year's best horror stories, Series 7. This is probably a more likely place for you to track down this story. Yeah. Tracking down that episode of, or that issue, I should say, of the, you know, the magazine of fantasy and science fiction from 1978, February, I believe. That would be a much taller order. But the one thing that I do have to read here is each of the entries in this have a little introduction of sorts from the editor, I'm presuming, and this was edited by Gerald W. Page, and he describes this as the unique annual of Weird Tales, and I really dig just the strange aspect of the art here. But, so, what he introduces this story as, just this little paragraph, it's really, it's especially amusing for me to see how King was being viewed even in his early days. This being, you know, the beginning of 1979, he's only put out a couple novels at this time, but we all know he skyrocketed to success so quickly with Carrie. So, check this out, and, you know, let me see in the comments below what you think, but this is funny. So they say, Stephen King's name, by now, is synonymous with the horror novel. Among his chillers are Carrie, Salem's Lot, The Shining, and The Stand. Significantly, he may be the only writer to work regularly the area of the best-selling horror novel without losing the relationship of that smaller, more discriminating coterie of connoisseurs that year's best horror is compiled for. And to reinforce that unique position, there are his short stories, which are among the best horror tales being produced today. And this is back in 1979, by the way. This year, he published two notable stories, and this is what really cracked me up. The Gunslinger, a strong and controversial story, just a bit too long to include here, which makes me wonder if they originally wanted to have that collected in this. And just think back, man, to like, it was published in the magazine of, you know, fantasy and science fiction as well, the very first installment of The Gunslinger, and how that became such an iconic work. But back to it. And Night of the Tiger, which appears below. It's a story of such traditional elements as a horrifying relationship between man and beast and a circus background. An old favorite for strange goings-on. But King's originality seeps through all of it and lifts it out of the traditional into the special and manages to intensify the horror while doing it. Yeah, if you can somehow track this down, whether you find it, you know, floating around online, which I'm sure you could track it down on a Reddit or some Stephen King fan site where it's been transcribed or something, I definitely recommend checking out The Night of the Tiger. I can maybe see why it wasn't collected because it's so drastically different than what King typically does, but it's a cool little story, I really must say. So this joins The Reploids, which was there in Night Visions 5, as the first two in this series that I've covered, but there are many more that I have slowly started to amass through Cemetery Dance, through, you know, just weird little little collections like this, and I look forward to at least giving all of you the spark to maybe either track down a physical copy or just to jump online and read a Stephen King story that you may not have even known existed unless you've trudged through all the wikis and looked at the unpublished and the uncollected and stuff like that. So I have to extend, first and foremost, a grande gracias to Sai King for putting this cool little story together. Really dug the twist here. And also to all of you for tuning in here on Hail to Stephen King. I must also make another mention right now. See that book right up there? Joyland. Yes, that is the illustrated edition that I am so happy to possess. And for the 5-year anniversary of that particular book, I am going to be doing at the end of this month, June 30th, I believe it is. That is the newest entry here in the Stephen King monthly book club here on Hail to Stephen King. So if you have any interest in checking out this book, it's less than 300 pages. It's a very fun, quick read. It's the hard case crime stuff. So he also did another one which was The Colorado Kid. Both of these I enjoy, but they're not particularly horror, so don't approach that anticipating this. It's also a really good audiobook if you get the chance, but it's more coming of age, you know, than anything else. You've got this kid from University of New Hampshire trying to do a long-distance relationship. He goes and starts working in North Carolina at a, like, the theme amusement, like, kind of carnival park of sorts. And, of course, King does eventually get into some murder mystery trope stuff, you know, hence the hard case crime aspect. But it really boils down to, you know, his floundering relationship with the girlfriend back home, 2 new friends who help him investigate some things, one in particular, but they're having kind of a relationship and so on. But it's a cute, endearing story. I hate to use a quaint term like cute, but it's really one that kind of pulls on my heartstrings a little bit. And so for its 5-year anniversary, this will be my first time rereading it. I actually really enjoyed this book, and it's funny to kind of think about the fact that, you know, this was in 2013, and so, I mean, you got Dr. Sleep and you got Revival, but pretty much everything else that King has done in the meantime, except for Sleeping Beauties, which was more so Owen's idea, as people continue badgering me about after mentioning during the Outsider review how I wasn't the biggest fan of Sleeping Beauties despite loving the Outsider. Yeah, he really digs this detective, procedural, mystery kind of stuff. He's really been into that lately, so this is no exception, and it's a very fun book. So I encourage all of you, I'm going to post about this on Instagram as well so that you know that this is actually transpiring. But yeah, once again, gracias for joining me, and check out, if you can, The Night of the Tiger. I've been Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors, just like you see the silly moniker spelled below: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Yes, we are taking at least a week off, but we just put up the solo review, super spoiler status, and got all of our thoughts about that. Lots of other exciting, big tentpole blockbusters coming in the coming months on Fuegotainment, so thanks for tuning into it, those of you who have. Also, this week we launched our Patreon. That's right, here on The Horror Show, and you can see tons of exclusive content. The cheapest level is $1, you know, and every dollar helps, y'all. It seriously does. We do 2 to 3 episodes a day most of the time. Hail to Stephen King is currently 2 episodes, but I'm genuinely thinking once we hit episode 100 that, as relentless as it's been, I think maybe there should be a special aspect to you know, content on the Patreon. I feel like it really kind of, it's deserving. It's one of the most gratifying and humbling things to do here on The Horror Show. I enjoy it oh so very much, and yeah, I look forward to sharing some exclusive content on the Patreon with all of you who really enjoy this program. We're trying to get some Hail to Stephen King merch together right now also. I have some ideas. So if you have not liked or subscribed here on The Horror Show or this particular video, please do. Greatly appreciated. You're still going to see Hail to Stephen King here regardless of what exclusive stuff may start popping up on the Patreon. This program hopefully is not going anywhere. Fingers firmly crossed. I'm ever the passionate man about Sai King. You also have our Pet Sematary panel that you can check out right now, which we had to film at the Horror Show Studios thanks to Phoenix Comic Fan Fest Fusion, whatever the hell they're calling themselves now. That was kind of something out of their control, regrettably, but happy to get that together for you. And also, yes, you're going to be seeing the Stand 40th Anniversary panel, which we did get to film live, along with the It panel, which made me oh so very happy to do, especially with looking forward to Chapter 2, which the next episode of this program on Tuesday is going to be me breaking down the entire casting, because we have the entire Losers Club officially cast now as adults. Hercules, I can't wait to discuss this with all of you. So once again, I have been Fuego. All of you CRs and constant viewers have been amazing. And until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego. I hope that we get to see each other sooner rather than later. And until that instance occurs, remember, stay scared. And read Stephen King, but most definitely try to track down The Night of the Tiger, because it's pretty cool. Very unique too.